In the wake of the election, there are some Republican groups who are doing what they can to move the Republican Party back towards the middle and away from the social values and tax cliff that they seem so eager to jump off of. So we have groups from a couple different areas we're going to highlight for you, and the purpose of this is I want to give them some publicity so that hopefully their influence within the party will grow, because I would love for there to be a viable alternative from the Democrats so that you'd actually have policies on the Democratic side, policies on the Republican side that would make sense. We don't currently have that. And so Democrats who are somewhat put off by the Democratic Party really have no alternative. So let's talk about these groups now so that 10, 12, 14 years from now, maybe there will be two reasonable political parties in the country. But I want to start off with Republican Majority for Choice. Now, this is a Republican group that's actually pro-choice. I was pretty shocked to hear this. I mean, we hear about Go Proud and some of the pro-gay organizations on the right, but not usually pro-choice organizations. So we have a quote from Rose Ferguson. She's the leader of this Republican Majority for Choice. And she says, "What happened on Election Day is essentially what we have been warning the party about for the last 4 years." Now, I have not been paying attention to what Kelly Rose Ferguson has been saying for the last 4 years, but if she has actually been warning them about their anti-choice statements, she was right on the money, because they lost, certainly, I would imagine, 2 Senate seats because of the crazy things that Murdoch and Aiken said about choice, about rape. Do you see any way that the Republican Party is going to move away from the brink and offer an alternative so you can have pro-choice and pro-life Republicans under 110?
It's hard to say. I think that it's interesting because we obviously saw voters move away from the Republican Party in those cases that you mentioned. I think that Senator Claire McCaskill was almost certainly thought to lose her seat, or had a very good chance of losing her seat. But when Aiken came out and made that comment about legitimate rape, he just dropped in the polls, and then we saw her come out on top in that one. But the Republican Party, as in elected officials or people who are running for office, did not denounce Aiken and Murdoch as much as we maybe would have liked to see, specifically Murdoch, as I'm sure that you guys have probably talked about it here on TYT, and we've talked about it on Current. Murdoch was one of at that point, the only candidate that Romney had actually cut an ad for, and he didn't pull those ads.
Not immediately, anyway.
So I don't know. So we don't see Republicans as a whole really backing away from the abortion issue, and I think that that's one of a lot of people who are one-button issues are abortion voters, one-button voters vote on abortion because a lot of people in the Republican Party, I think, don't want to see. They have this whole idea that they don't want their taxpayer dollars going to fund abortion. We can talk another time about whether that's a legitimate argument about how that doesn't actually happen. But I don't know that this is ever going to completely change. I mean, maybe decades down the road, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, a great example of that was when we were debating the healthcare bill. So the Republicans came up and said, one thing is we have to have it said that taxpayer money can't go towards abortions. And the Democrats were like, yeah, that's already federal law. You can't do that. So finally, they were like, okay, fine. So they put in something. And the Republicans came back and said, we have to have it be more obvious. Like, it was already in the bill and in federal law.
And yet there's still the misconception that your taxpayer dollars are going to fund abortions to this day.
Because they go towards organizations that, as one part of what they do, Planned Parenthood specifically.
Or really and that's about 3% of the
procedures that
they perform have to do with abortions. And I mean, what the Affordable Care Act actually says is that you might be paying some of your dollars that you're paying in your premiums might be going to fund abortions, but both states and individuals can opt out of plans that fund abortion coverage. So, I mean, this is just a complete misconception, and like you said, one that they pushed to state firmly in there that doesn't happen, and yet then also still push this idea that it is happening so that people don't support Obamacare as a whole.
The other major issue area where I think they actually will do better in helping to reform the Republican Party is in regards to same-sex marriage and homosexual rights generally. So you've had Go Proud, you've had the Log Cabin Republicans. Now, obviously, the Log Cabin Republicans are not exactly the biggest advocates for gay rights, but Go Proud has tried to be. Now, granted, they haven't had a good couple of years. They've been thrown out of places where they were giving speeches and things like that. But I think that it'll be hard to change people's mind in the Republican Party for abortion. I do think that they have a better chance of doing it in regard to same-sex marriage, because it's hard to get past the idea of murder in abortion. Like, that seems to, for a lot of Republicans in the base, that seems to really work. And I think that they have a very emotional reaction to that. I think that they have an emotional problem, a gut reaction to same-sex marriage too, but I can't see that lasting. The numbers are changing too quickly just over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, we saw more legalization of gay marriage in a couple of states on two Tuesdays ago. And now some Republicans, including in Go Proud, are saying that they need to adopt a federalist stance to this, where just allow the states to decide, which would, you'd have to get rid of the Defense of Marriage Act at that point. Do you think that they're more likely to do better when it comes to this issue?
I think that they are likely to do better, and I think that this is a specific area where we see a lot of young Republicans kind of coming around, and if you've been paying attention on TYT University, we've talked about this before, that a lot of young Republicans on college campuses actually are a little bit more socially liberal in the terms of how Republican and liberal or conservative and liberal are being defined right now. Is they do support same-sex marriage and other issues like that, and so I do think that we might kind of see those ideologies within the party start to change, specifically when it does come to gay rights. And now the thing is, though, kind of saying that it should be handled by the states is almost a way of still not supporting it, but not really having to deal with it. So, you know, it's a little give and take there.
Yeah.
It's not totally coming around.
And what I love is it's made out in the press that, you know, there are people who support states' rights and people who don't support states' rights. But I think that that's just BS. When the states support what you're doing, or when you can get a federal law passed, then people tend to want that. When you can't, send it to the states, and we'll see if we can win there. I think that both Democrats and Republicans, if we're being fair, do that on various issues, like, for instance, pot legalization and things like that. But I wish these fairly moderate Republican groups well. I don't know, it's going to be hard, because there's a period now where, in terms of immigration, in terms of maybe same-sex marriage, you have this window where maybe you can influence the Republicans to be a bit more reasonable. But in just a couple of years, actually less than that, you're going to have the midterm elections. And around that same time, there are going to be Republicans running for the nomination again, and they're going to have to appeal to the crazies in their party to get through the primary too. So I would, if you're going to do anything, do it quickly, because your window is quickly closing.